Hello and welcome to the world of my books and stories. Now, in my interactions with children and their parents, I often meet parents whose children do read books, but the parents still have a problem with what they are reading and how they are reading it. So, what are these problems? Now, in many cases, children who read often are reading below their level in the opinion of the parents. So what this basically means is that if the child is 9 or 10 years old, the parents do feel that this child should be reading books which are far more advanced, whereas the child is still stuck on reading picture books. Alright, so does this mean that the parents should interfere and should put away all the picture books and ensure that the house is filled only with books which are appropriate to the age of the child? Basically, which means that, should a parent police a child's reading? I don't think so. I don't think that's right at all, because primarily when you think of it, reading is meant to give your child the freedom to choose what he wants to read, to read when he wants to read, and to go at his own pace. And in other videos, I have talked about what is called age banding, so where age banding is basically this kind of age, that you're given, that which is appropriate age for the target audience. A lot of parents get swayed by this, get influenced by this, and they feel worried if their child is not reading books which are supposed to be appropriate for a child of his age, and if a child would rather read books which the parent feels are too babyish. I don't think a parent should worry about it, because remember, I've also said that every child is unique, every child is different, and every child decides on his or her learning level and learning speed, based on what he wants. So if your child is reading picture books when you think he should be reading maybe chapter books or even middle grade fiction, what I would suggest is no, don't lock away the picture books, don't give them away, or don't, tell your child that he's not supposed to touch the picture books. What I would suggest rather is talking to your child, because very often, a child clings on to picture books because they remind him of a time when the world was easier, simpler, his life was easier, simpler. And if that is the case, it's always a good idea to talk to your child and see what he has to say. It is also possible that your child feels intimidated by the largeness of the books that you have been thrusting on him or her, and finds it so much easier to just read the picture books, in which case, all you have to do is to introduce your child to the world of chapter books, which will offer a perfect bridge between picture books and middle grade fiction or longer novels. Of course, all of this will involve the parents' participation, because if your child is intimidated by the length or by the language of books which are supposed to be appropriate for him, then as a parent, you should sit with them. You could read out chunks of it or make it a joint effort, rather than just thrusting a book on the child and expecting him or her to read it. In other cases, I have met parents who complain that their child insists on reading the same book over and over and over again. And again, this is something that I have noticed across ages. So even a child who loves a picture book will, the minute you finish reading it, will turn it back, open the front page and point at it to indicate that he or she wants you to read it yet again. Similarly, a child who is, 8 or 9 or 10, if he or she falls in love with a particular kind of fiction, maybe fantasy in particular, I've noticed that children do fall in love with it and get fascinated by it. They will want to read books of the same kind again and again. So what parents feel is that this limits the choices, the reading choices of a child. It prevents them from exploring all the wonderful worlds that, books that exist in the world outside. And this again is a very, very justified fear of the parent. But the solution to this is definitely not coming down, really strict on the child and telling them that they cannot read these particular books, because what that would mean is that you would be questioning the child's choice. You would be making the child feel ashamed of the books that he or she is reading, and this would definitely have an impact on their self-confidence. And the worst thing that would happen is that your child would still continue reading these books, but would ensure that he or she does it in hiding, so you don't get to know. So what a parent can do instead in both of these cases is to definitely talk to the child. In the case of a child who's reading, below his level in the opinion of the parents, you can definitely help your child read other books, make it, like I suggested, a joint project. In the case of children who insist on reading, the same kinds of books or the same books over and over again, Again, what you can do is to very gently steer your child towards the other books that exist. So if your child likes books on dinosaurs, for example, do go and look for other books and get them home, so your child gets to read something else which is still connected to a topic that fascinates him, but at the same time opens up new vistas for him. If your child is in love with fantasy or with magic or with historical fiction, just go look. You will find lots of other stories of a similar kind which your child can read, and from there it's just one more step to getting your child interested in something else and ensuring that their reading grows. Okay, so do make sure that you are tuned into what your child is reading, but you are also aware of the reasons for these choices that your child makes. And don't be the parent who restricts your child from reading, stops your child from reading certain kinds of books and insists that they only read a certain kind of book. Talk to them about it and, participate in their reading journey, and make sure that your child continues to stay in love with books, because we are on a mission to make sure that every child grows up to be a reader. So if you have any other questions on how to get your child to read, do drop in a comment. I'd love to hear from you. And if you have any other ideas and suggestions on what parents can do, yes, I'm sure this will benefit other educators and parents too. So do leave the comment. And till the next time, bye-bye, and thank you so much for watching.